If I had to go back right now and recreate Duel, I couldn't do it. It's impossible.
So before we begin, why don't you summarize this film for our audience here?
Yeah, this one's actually, I think, a pretty neat one to summarize. So it's basically, there's a character, David Mann. He's on this long car ride through the desert where he gets tortured by a truck driver that just, like, will not leave him alone. And it comes to a head where he has to, like, face a force much greater in strength than himself.
And it is a wild ride.
God
Let
damn.
us begin. So, what did you think of this one starting off?
Kick-ass movie, Kyle. I've seen it 4 times.
It is incredible from start to finish.
Yeah.
There wasn't a point where I was bored. There were points where I physically was sitting on the edge of my seat and like tensed up because I was like, oh my god, is this guy gonna make it through?
So, like, let's talk about it because there's so much. So basically, David Mann, he's an electronics salesman, and there's this implication in the film that he's kind of run down.
He's a little bit pathetic.
What you gotta picture is you gotta picture the sweatiest, grimiest man you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yes.
Whatever you've imagined, age him up by about 5 years, put more sweat on him, and then you've got David Mann.
Interestingly enough, this film is pretty much silent.
Yeah.
There is barely any dialogue throughout the film. There are these occasional like little monologues that David Mann has to himself in his head.
I don't know. All I did was pass this stupid rig a couple of times and he goes flying off the deep end.
But other than that, there is barely any talking.
Spielberg actually, at a certain point, was considering making the whole thing silent.
Oh.
I'm glad he didn't. The little dialogue that there is, I think, is really good. It's well written. So the lead actor, Dennis Weaver, he's pretty much the only name actor.
He carries the film on his back.
On his sweaty back, dude.
He adds to the tension. He adds to the fear factor.
He committed fully. He did a lot of his own stunts in this.
Other than that, there really isn't many other actors. The main antagonistic force is like this big oil tanker truck driver, but here is the catch. We do not see him. We do not see his face. We occasionally see shots of his hands or like a silhouette of him, but we don't know who he is, and it adds this kind of like supernatural aspect.
All of the personality is given basically to the truck. It feels to me like the driver is like a husk being controlled by the truck rather than the other way around. Like the truck is not being driven, it's an entity, exactly.
And that leads into kind of cinematography, because speaking of the truck, the entire world, despite being a desert, is very colorful. But then you have the oil tanker. It's gray, it's dirty, it looks so out of place. It's just all these dark colors.
Exactly. That first shot, basically David's driving along and he gets up behind this truck and there's this low sweeping shot, and the truck and its size compared to his little car, that should be in shot montages in terms of like greatest shots ever, because David, he's in a car. It's like a regular sized car, but in this movie, the way that they shoot it, the way that the sound works, David's car feels like a toy. I feel like I could pick it up with my hand.
It feels like a Hot Wheels car.
Yes, it feels like a Hot Wheels car. It feels like if you hit it with like your hand, it would crumple like aluminium foil. A strong gust of wind would pick that car up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just so impressed by the shots and, like you said, how they shoot the truck, because I don't know how they did this so well, is in a lot of the shots where you see David in his car, in the rear view mirror or the side mirrors, you can see the truck perfectly.
Yeah, and it takes up a bunch of the frame. And then that means that when you can't see the truck, you're wondering, where did it go?
One of my favorite shots is actually the opening credits of the film, because it starts off of a black screen, and then we can hear a garage door open, and the car pulls out, and we reveal that the blackness is actually inside the garage.
Yeah.
And we see on the front of David's car is the camera, because the camera they mounted to the front bumper.
Yeah, really low down to the ground, right?
So it's literally just driving through LA traffic going onto this Arizona road. Just a brilliant way to start it.
Yeah, and we see as like the buildings start to disappear, as he gets more and more isolated as he goes into the desert.
Exactly.
And they also use things like when he goes into a tunnel and part of the screen goes black, that's when they put like the cast list, because they don't want to put the text on like a busy background. It's brilliant.
So the acting and the shots sell this so well, but I don't think the suspense would be there if it wasn't for the music either.
Totally agree.
It's like Jaws, how John Williams did those 2 notes and it made the film more scary. I think it's the same thing here.
I totally agree. The soundtrack for this film is amazing. They got lightning in a bottle here. The sound is simple, simple. Like, usually there's not that many instruments playing at the same time, but when there are, they're kind of off-putting.
Yeah. There's this great scene that happens. We see David Mann, he skids his car into the center of the road.
Yeah.
So the car's facing on the side. And then the camera zooms out.
Yes.
And we see the camera has been shot and put under the oil tanker.
Yeah.
We can see the wheels of the car, and this great little motif plays. It adds to the feeling of like, oh fuck, he's been here, he's been waiting for him.
Fear, tension, like everything is brought to a higher degree because of the music. It's really, really good. They fucking nailed all of the elements.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's been described as Jaws on land, or Jaws has been
Interesting.
described as like Duel in the water. Because they have similarities, right? This hunt and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you look at Duel and you go, it doesn't feel like a prototype. It doesn't feel like they were testing stuff out and then some stuff didn't work and some stuff worked. Everything worked.
Yeah.
And it's crafted really well because there are multiple ticking clocks. At first, David just needs to make it to this appointment and the truck is like slowing him down. So you're like, okay, that's the ticking clock. But then there's also this ticking clock of
the radiator tube.
Radiator tube, that's exactly it. There's a radiator tube, and at the very start, he stops off at this gas station. They're like, your radiator tube needs replacing. And he's like, whatever, I'm not going to replace it. That's another ticking clock, though, because you're waiting, when is it going to break? And it does. That's where Spielberg's like craftsmanship really shines through, you know?
Yeah.
And then later, he goes into this cafe, and he thinks he's lost the truck driver, and he's just like, I need some water, I need to wash my face. Like, he looks so miserable.
Yeah.
He looks so sad.
So miserable. No.
But you're like, okay, maybe we finally got a break from this like horrifying tenseness, right?
Yeah.
And then in this one take shot, he goes into the cafe, into the bathroom, goes back out, takes a seat, pan over, the truck's outside the window. And we're like, we haven't been left off the hook. And we get voiceover from Dennis Weaver as well. And Dennis Weaver does really good voiceover for this because he just he sounds so sad.
Yeah.
He sounds so pathetic.
Sounds
and
like he's going insane.
he sounds like he's on the verge of tears. He sounds like he's been in the desert with no water for 7 days. Honestly, this movie made me really appreciate modern technology because this movie wouldn't have happened if he had a cell phone. But also, like, I just want to take him and put him in an air-conditioned room. He's so sweaty, Kyle. I cannot get over how sweaty and grimy
I don't
he
think
is.
cars had air conditioning.
Yeah,
back then.
he's got the window open the whole time so
Yeah.
he can catch a breeze. I just want to take this man like 20 years into the future, put him in like a nice ice cold room,
Yeah.
give him a Coke, you know, have a chat with him. I actually have some like quotes from Spielberg where he says when he read the first script, he thought it was like a Bible parable.
Ah.
What he read it as is he read it as David versus Goliath. The main character is literally called David too.
Yeah.
And the escalation of this film is really great. It starts out with the truck driver just like, you know, blocking him in the road.
Yeah.
And then it dramatically changes when the driver like waves for him to go around him and waves him into like an oncoming car and it nearly crashes and it nearly kills him.
Because originally you're just like, oh, he's just having fun with him.
It's a
he's
nuisance.
bored.
Yeah, he's just bored, right?
But it gets more intense as the film goes on.
That was a turning point for sure.
He escalates it more and
He
more.
escalates it and he loves it. Like, the truck driver is clearly having a really good time messing with David.
I thought it was going to be Chekhov's gun with the oil tanker. I was like, it's an oil tanker, it's going to explode.
It says flammable on it.
It never did.
It never did. And actually, the studio wanted a big explosion at the end because they felt like it was set up, like you said. But Spielberg refused because he really liked the shot of the truck falling down.
I like it too. I think
it's a great
really
shot.
works.
And I think it also works because I interpreted it as the truck never had anything in it.
Yeah, was
at
he
all.
ever an oil tanker at all?
Exactly.
Right?
Like, I took it as, oh, there's no actual oil in that tank. He's not actually flammable. It's just like a scare tactic.
Exactly.
And this guy's a serial killer,
Yeah.
right? Like, he's done this to other people. He just loves running people off the road. It's like a monster.
Yeah.
It's really eerie, especially at the end. We get these shots of the wreckage of the truck at the bottom of the cavern or like the cliff, and we see blood dripping. And it's just this small reminder that he's like a human behind the wheel.
Exactly.
And the mystery of who the driver is, I feel, creates so much tension.
Yeah.
I thought I was so clever the first time I watched this film because I watched it and I was like, oh my god, I get it. It's a Western. And then I watched an interview with Spielberg and he was like, yeah, it's like a Western. And I was like, god damn it, I can't believe I tried to like outthink the king himself.
See, to me, I got Western vibes for sure, but I almost got alien abduction vibes. Like the aliens hunting its prey.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I think the Western for me work because of the setting and also some of the shots. And I think it has some similar like themes to the Western, like sort of civilization and like where is it going. But Spielberg himself said that it has elements of a Western.
So
in it.
we're right, everybody.
We're bloody right, and if anyone bloody thinks otherwise will drive you off a cliff. It's just a masterful film. It's also kind of a masterclass. I mean, he was young when he did it, but he's using techniques and stuff that I think other people could take away as well.
So that being said, Baden, let's jump into the behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Light on set.